that's just who I am. Like, that's who I am. Like, I'm bringing this back. Like, like this thing that I felt bad about and that was sort of tattooed on me throughout all my school years, disruptive behavior, disruptive, I was like, that's just, like, that is who I am. Like, that is in me.
Welcome to On Brand with Donny Deutsch. I am Donny Deutsch, and this is the podcast dedicated to a simple premise that everybody and everything today is a brand. Every politician, every celebrity, every athlete, every institution, every religion, every political party is a brand. As a matter of fact, if you've got an Instagram page or a Facebook page, you're a brand. A brand is a set of values, and the values project. And what we do on the show is a couple of things. First of all, we're going to go through the brands of the week, which are basically the brands that are kind of defining where we're going, how we're getting there, the zeitgeist, who's up, who's down. And then I interview an iconic brand in themselves. And today it's Michael Rapaport. Michael Rapaport is a social media provocateur, a great actor, but he's really kind of notable today for his crazy, irreverent, social conscience social media presence. He's got over 3 million followers, and he is a raw dude, and we're going to talk to him about a lot of interesting stuff in his personal brand. But first, it's the brands of the week. Let's get right to it. Big brand up once again for the Cleveland, now not the Indians, the Cleveland Guardians. And a sidebar brand down for our good friend Donald Trump. Only Trump can do this. He took a dump all over this. And he said that, I guarantee, this is Trump, that the people who are most angry about it are all the many Indians of our country. Donald Trump. There you go. Donald Trump saying all the many Indians of our country are the ones who are going to be upset about it, because Donald Trump has his ear to the ground with American Indians, of course. Brand down for Mike Lindell, My Pillow guy, of course. And My Pillow guy is somewhere. His politics is just right of Attila the Hun. He is upset with Fox News because Fox News will not cover his upcoming, what he's called, Cyber Symposium, scheduled for mid-August in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. He's long promised to unveil data that he says conclusively will prove Trump was the real winner of the 2020 election. He said this week that a billion people might tune in and could become a bigger phenomenon than Elvis Presley's legendary 1973 Aloha from Hawaii concert. He claims he's going to prove beyond a shadow of a doubt. And, brand up for Fox for not covering this. And there's lunatic. And, a lot of the real crazy hard right-wingers are having problems with Fox. And ever since Fox got sued by the voting machine companies, they seem to be walking a little straight. What's interesting about this is that he's a huge advertiser. I think on, for instance, on Tucker Carlson's show, I think he accounts for 35% of the ads. So it's interesting. They're standing tall against their big advertiser, although he's an absolute lunatic, but we'll see how that plays out. Another brand down for Tom Barrack. Tom Barrack is a name I think you'll be hearing a lot about. He was arrested, and he is probably Donald Trump's best friend. It's not a name you've heard. Donald Trump doesn't have like good friends. Big financial guy. He was founder, CEO of Colony Capital. And he was arrested and just released on $250 million bond. Now, yes, the legal system is not fair. The average guy getting arrested cannot get out of jail on a $250 million bond. He's accused of using his proximity to the White House to lobby on behalf of the United Arab Emirates without disclosing his role required to the Justice Department. He's also charged with obstruction of justice, making multiple false statements. And what I think is interesting about this is we focused a lot more within the Trump organization of people who are possibly turning on Trump. Alan Weisselberg, and we know Michael Cohen in the past has. This is somebody outside the Trump organization and not getting a ton of attention right now. Obviously, the day you were arrested, but I believe could be one more cog in the wheel that runs over Donald Trump. This is a guy who, as I said, is as close to any human being to Trump outside of his family, and with a lot of influence. And he was obviously trying to peddle his influence with the UAE, and he got a little nabbed, if you will. So he'll be looking at jail time, and we'll see how he stands tall against his old friend and probably future nemesis, Donald Trump. Brand up for Tom Brady. This is the second week in a row for Tom Brady, brand up. He was great. He and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and their coach Bruce Arians went to the White House to accept their congratulations from Joe Biden on winning the Super Bowl last January. And he gave this speech. He was just a 2-minute speech, but he got up there and he said, we were speaking about the Buccaneers. This is Brady. We were 7-5, struggling a little bit, but we found a rhythm. We got on a roll. Not a lot of people think we could have won. In fact, I think about 40% of the people still don't think we won. And then Biden jumped in and said, well, I understand where that's coming from. And just the fact that he kind of make fun of that, and being that he was a Trumper, or Trump at least considered him a dear friend, and and Brady early on was a Trump fan. I think he has since switched, but also early in the ceremony, Biden, who became the oldest man to become president, credited Bruce Arians and Brady for being the oldest coach and quarterback, respectively. And Brady also made a joke about that. And he said, we had a game in Chicago where I forgot what down it was. I lost track of one down in 21 years. They started calling me Sleepy Tom. Why would they do that to me? Another obviously joke with the president. So Brady just is in his early 40s is just catching stride as a mega presence in our culture. And I think that when he retires from football, he'll continue to be a very, very compelling brand. He continues to be. Big brand up for the NFL. And I like the NFL, and I've in the past saluted certain corporations and corporate CEOs, like Morgan Stanley CEO, says, if you're well enough to go to a restaurant, you're well enough to come back to work, and I want people vaccinated. And the NFL is basically, without saying you must get vaccinated, they're kind of doing it because they're making it extra punitive. For instance, they basically said, they just sent out a league-wide memo announcing there will be no reworking its 17-game schedule in case there's an outbreak. But instead, if a team that can't suit up enough players, they will forfeit the game. And if that wasn't enough incentive, no one on the team in question or their opponent that week will receive their paychecks. So you're going to shame your teammates into it, because if somebody comes down with COVID and they weren't vaccinated, the team automatically loses that week. That team, every player on that team loses their paycheck, 1/16 of their annual salary, and the other team loses it. So I think that's a really smart, inventive way to just kind of, and also interestingly enough, furthermore, unvaccinated players will be subjected to a fine of $14,650 every time they violate any procedure. So make it almost where they have no choice. And certain players like Anthony Hopkins, great receiver for the Arizona Cardinals. I'm sorry, DeAndre Hopkins tweeted, I never thought I'd say this, but being put in a position to hurt my team because I don't want to partake in the vaccine is making me question my future in the NFL. Well, then question it. Then don't play. We're getting to a point in time, and I've talked about this on Morning Joe in relation to people who are not getting vaccine. You're hurting, you're killing other people. We need to start shaming. I'm sorry. It's just, that's why this thing is cooking up again. You got certain places, and I'm going to also talk about the Alabama governor who's just came out and done a great thing. But we got to start, whether it's football teams, whether it's corporations, whether it's companies, whether it is that pointing fingers. No, you unvaccinated person, you are causing me harm. We don't, and when I hear about this, my civil liberties and my freedom, you don't get to smoke inside anymore. Yes, because it's going to kill other people with secondhand smoke. You don't get to do things just because you want them if it hurts other people. And that's where we are right now. So big brand up to the NFL. Big brand up on the same topic for Alabama Governor Kay Ivey. She's great. I just look her up. She's just this bawdy woman who says it like it is. I don't know, is that sexist? Bawdy woman, bawdy person, or just this just right in your face. And she says, look, they were asking, what else can we do? Her state, only 49% of people 12 and over have been vaccinated, one of the lowest vaccinated states. She says, but it's time, just like I just said, it's time to start blaming the unvaccinated folks, not the regular folks. It's the unvaccinated folks that are letting us down, she continued. Once again, got to start pointing. Let's make people outcasts. I'm sorry. I'm sorry if you're dumb enough to think that they're, my next topic, I will go right into the brand, what I'll call the 20% of Americans, the 20% dumbest Americans. And these are people who believe microchips are inside every vaccine. 20% of Americans believe this. That's probably, obviously, a big chunk of the people who are not getting vaccinated. I'm going to read this. Some 20% of Americans believe conspiracy theory, according to a YouGov and Economist poll last week. The poll found that 15% of Americans say it's probably true, and 5% said it's definitely true. So 20% either probably or definitely true that they're putting chips in our vaccinations, and that's why they're vaccinating us. 27% of people aged 30 to 44 support the theory. And guess what? 80% of Biden voters and 29% of Trump voters believed it. Many think Bill and Melinda Gates are somehow behind this. Just amazing. And I go back to the way I took a dump on Facebook last week. That's where this information is getting out there. Facebook is responsible for half of it, not the only place, but the main place. And this is insanity. So that's what I call the 20% dum-dums in this country. Speaking of dum-dums, a brand down for Eric Clapton. The great, and I say that with quotes around, Eric Clapton just announced Wednesday he would not play concerts at ventures where proof of vaccination against the virus would be required. I want to say that again. If it's a venue that's making people show vaccine, cards that they got vaccinated, nope, I don't want to play it. I think that's infringing on people's, rights and whatnot. And no surprise, Senator Ted Cruz, who, by the way, like Clapton, is vaccinated, immediately tweeted his admiration. Bravo, Eric Clapton. Artists should defend individual liberty. And this is what gets problematic when we have artists who people follow coming out with this kind of nonsense. So Eric Clapton at age 673, I think you've lost your way a bit. Just amazing. Just amazing. All right, next brand up. Not a brand sideways. It's I can't say brand up because I always have problems with her as a brand, AOC. But her personal brand, this is a great sign that it is getting larger and larger. She's making a big push into political merchandise, and she's picking up the Trump playbook, and it just shows what a kind of big brand she is. I don't like her politics, but she is. And that right now they're selling AOC t-shirts, sweatshirts, and other merchandise with her name, AOC initials or slogans, including tax the rich and fight for our future. This is what's an interesting stat, is her campaign has paid political merchandise firm Financial Innovations, which operates her online store, $1.4 million in the first 6 months. And that's more than many lawmakers have an entire fundraising period in Congress. So she's paying out $1.5 million for somebody to just manage her online merch business. Just shows you what it's generating, both from a fundraising point of view, and it boggles the mind. But look, these politicians, more than ever, Trump proved it, are brands, and she's selling her merch, and probably one of the 10 most well-known political brands in the country today, when you include President Pelosi, McConnell, Trump, some of the other characters. She's top 10. So I don't like her politics, but she certainly has built a compelling brand. Brand up for Balenciaga. Okay, Balenciaga and has teamed with Justin Bieber, a new ad campaign. And what they've done, the pop star models an oversized leather jacket, black sweatpants, and their new ASICS sneaker collaboration on a new take on the City bag, which was one of the hottest purses in 2000s. And Balenciaga years ago was a dead brand. And all of a sudden they got hip again. And if you want to get hipper, you just get attached. What's really interesting, you have these old classic brands doing collaborations with the youngest cutting edge people. You would never, in the past you'd have, Audrey Hepburn endorsing it or something like that, or some, regal character. But no, the fashion business has gone, I don't want to say gone hip hop, but has gone music, has gone edge. And there you go. And another example, ASICS sneaker was a kind of relatively dead sneaker brand. They do a collaboration with Balenciaga. So it's just what I keep calling the piling on brand strategy. If your brand is not where you want it to be, take the right celebrity, take the right other brand, mix it in a stew, and you got a fresh brand. So Bieber and Balenciaga, a brand up right there. Big brand up for Andie MacDowell, the actress. Andie MacDowell, who I'm guessing is in her 60s. I don't want to age her, could be pushing 70, I'm not sure. Decided it was time to embrace her gray hair. It was appropriate for my personality. She said to Vogue, I think, her managers told her it wasn't time, but she said, I think you're wrong. I'm going to be more powerful if I embrace where I am right now. She told Vogue she looks amazing. And she said, and this is what kind of caught me, I like to compare myself to George Clooney. And, Clooney's walking, rocking the gray hair, just like Mr. Donny Deutsch, host of On Brand with Donny Deutsch, rocking the gray hair, the silver hair. And she's in one fell swoop saying, wait, it looks great on Clooney, and it does look great. Who said gray hair? Now, by the way, it's not all gray hair on every guy looks good either, but the right gray hair on the right dude looks great, just like the right gray hair on the right woman looks great. And why not? I mean, I challenged somebody to look up pictures of her. It's a new Vogue spread, Andie MacDowell, sporting the gray. You go, girl, Andie MacDowell. A brand up, we don't give enough attention on the show. LeBron James, who obviously is probably, you would have to say, the number one sports brand in the world. I guess I'd put him and Brady and maybe Ronaldo and Messi. But he's the first NBA active player to be worth $1 billion, or not to necessarily be worth, have made $1 billion over his career. Of course, Michael Jordan with his, Air brand has made billions, but most of that came after he retired. According to Sportico, LeBron has earned $330 million playing in salary since getting drafted in 2003, and $700 million through endorsements, merchandise, licensing, and media. His endorsements: AT&T, Beats, Blaze Pizza, GMC, Pepsi. And he just opened Space Jam, which got horrible reviews, but still did better than the original opening of the Michael Jordan Space Jam. And the guy is he's just pitch perfect in everything he does. He had that one terrible mistake, which really dented his brand when he moved from Cleveland to Miami and said, "I'm taking my talents to South Beach." And it was just done in a very arrogant, annoyingly assumptive way. But he has since, with the things he's done for education, has become just a titan in our culture, so beyond basketball. And I wouldn't be surprised if we don't see this guy in politics someday. This guy can really make a difference. He's got an important voice. He's a guy that has always made his teammates better. He's a guy that stands with team. I love seeing him now with his kids, with his son Bronny, who's a college, going to be a college standout player. So brand up for him. Super future brand up for Giannis. Giannis Antetokounmpo, of course, his Milwaukee Bucks last week won the NBA championship. He won the MVP trophy. Just his final game was a monster game, 50 points. And he then pulled into, you may have seen this by now, this happened a few days ago. He pulled into Chick-fil-A and said, "I don't want 49 nuggets. I don't want 51 nuggets. I want 50 nuggets to sell it." And he had his trophy with him in the car. And of course, that went viral. And basically, they said that the PR, the Instagram video earned Chick-fil-A about $300 million in brand value as this thing gets played over and over again. By the way, it's better than him paying them $10 million a year to endorse Chick-fil-A, because this is just real. It's not like, oh, he's getting paid money. This is where this dude wanted to go to celebrate. He had his trophy in his car. And I think this guy is just so untapped at this point. I don't know if endorsers have not caught up to enough because of his name, because it's not an easy, to pronounce name, or because he's Greek. I certainly hope those are not two of the stupid reasons, because this guy is, the more you unpeel the layers of this guy, what a likable, decent, hardworking, everything you read about him, from, the first dollars he was making, he was sending home, even though he couldn't afford to take a cab to the game. He would send his money home. He is, on the one hand, very humble, but on the other hand, super confident. And this guy is going to be a major endorsement voice. I'm really shocked up until this point. I'm sure he has his endorsements, but I, who's in this business, can't even off the top of my head name them. But this is a guy that should be in the pantheon of endorsers. He's just starting right now. And once again, I don't know why it hasn't happened so far, because the guy's already won 2 MVPs. He's one of the 3 or 4 or 5 faces of the league. And also Doncic doesn't have Luka Doncic, of course, the great Slovenian, I guess you call him a point guard for point forward, point guard, shooting guard for the Dallas Mavericks. I don't think he's had the endorsements. And I think American corporations have got to get hip that basketball and the world is a global community right now. Doesn't matter whether people were born in the USA, but because these guys should have every endorsement that LeBron has, or Brady has, or Steph Curry has, or any of these other guys. So big brand future up to Giannis Antetokounmpo. Big brand down for the Big 12 conference. I mean, not for the big brand. Actually, I'm going to say it will future be brand down for the Big 12 football conference, because Texas and Oklahoma are talking to SEC officials about switching from the Big 12 and to the SEC, which just would just make college football stupid. It would make it just one league, the SEC. Every year, the best teams are in the SEC. Alabama's in the SEC. Clemson's in the SEC. Georgia. It is becoming the I don't want to say the best conference in college football. It's becoming college football. And now you're probably taking 2 of the 3 best teams that are not in the SEC in the country and putting them in there. Not good for college football. I think college football sucks during the year anyway. There's maybe 3 games that matter. You have these teams that have their schedules. Alabama, they're 12-0 every year. Clemson's 12-0 every year because they don't schedule games against other top conference teams during the year, because that'll keep them from getting into the bowls at the end of the year. So I think college football needs to take a hard look at itself and how it's set up. I think that it's not going in the right direction. Brand down for friendships. You heard it right? Friendships. This is an interesting. New research shows that Americans now have fewer friends than in the past and are less likely to have a best friend. This is from the Survey Center on American Life. This is from May polling. And then people who said they have close friends have considerably dropped from 30 years ago. When 30 years ago, 33% of Americans, 1 in 3, said they had 10 or more close friends, and now only 13% say it. So almost a third, only a third of people versus, how many years ago is this? 1990. Now describe, I have a circle of 10 really, really good friends. And 75% in that same year said that we have a best friend, and now only 59% said it. And look, this is a function of technology. This is a function of that. You watch little kids, the years that people are forming their formative friendships. I still have my friends since first and second grade and from high school and from college, because people are on their gadgets, and your gadget becomes your first best friend. Obviously, COVID has not helped that situation with people being more isolated, but that's just a moment in time. But I think this less human connectivity is an obvious outgrowth of generations being brought up on technology. And I think it's going to continue to drop. And, wake up 30, 40 years from now, and that number will drop considerably as technology becomes a bigger piece of our lives. So kind of a sad thing there. But on the happier news, dating, brand up for dating. This is Google searches for dating have reached a 5-year high. Listen to some of these stats. Searches for top dating apps 2021 boomed over the past month, according to Google. They jumped 3,400%. So people looking for top dating apps, jumping 3,400%. Over the past month, the search dating apps for older people rose 3,500%. And searches for virtual first date ideas also went up 450%. So this is obviously coming out of COVID. People are finally feeling the need to connect and whatnot. So a little different from the previous one about friendships, dating on the way up. So gotta love that dating is on the way up, and no surprise there. Brand down for Tiffany. They're running a campaign called, and strategically it's right, it's called Not Your Mother's Tiffany. They're trying to rebrand themselves. And the campaign has multiple videos on Instagram and Twitter featuring young, edgy-looking people, coupled with, words, "Not Your Mother's Tiffany." And, I'm going to take, there was a woman named Katie Keating, the co-chief creative officer at ad agency Fancy, said, "Boy, I have a lot of feelings about this campaign. None of them are good. The 'not your mother's' phrasing is too easy. It's been done plenty of times. No one version ought to say desperately, we're not old-fashioned. We're not old-fashioned." It's like they're apologizing for the previous 184 years. That's a quote from her. And I think her point is well taken, that you got to act as if, not say it. You can't say, that's the difference between stimulus and response. The stimulus has to get you to a response of, oh, it is not your mother's Tiffany, it's hip. You can't tell people it's not your mother. That's like saying I'm classy, which I do all the time, of course. So, right intention, but you got to act it and not say it. You can't say, and Oldsmobile tried that years ago with a campaign, "Not Your Father's Oldsmobile," and it just reinforced the stereotype, and you have to act it, not say it. Finally, also, Volkswagen is killing brand down, I guess, for Volkswagen. They're killing off the Passat. It's only sold 23,000 units. The reason I bring it up, it's because a lot of what are basically just, sedan brands, the Chevy Impala, the Ford Focus, the Dodge Dart, Chrysler 200, are all gone by the wayside in the last few years, because basically people just want SUVs and small SUVs and pickup trucks. They're taking car lines that used to just make regular cars and making small sports utility vehicles. Everybody wants to be up higher. And I think in the future right now, we're just going to see electric cars and sport utility vehicles. Speaking of electric cars, brand up for Mercedes-Benz. They said by 2025, they're going to have every brand model available in electric. And by the end of the decade, hopefully just 100% electric. So good for them. And finally, our last brand up is for Cheetos clothing. That's right. I heard you said it right. Cheetos, of course. Now, this keeps going back to my point of collaborations, and you can pile anything on top of anything. But what a smart move by Cheetos. And they got together with Bad Bunny, of course, the rapper. We all love Bad Bunny, introducing an exclusive limited edition Adidas fashion collection. And they're using this innovative digital technology that involves a little Cheetos dust. That starting today, Cheetos fans can visit the Cheeto ID website to score early access to Cheetos Bad Bunny collection. But you must eat Cheetos and use the cheddar dust at your fingertips, better known as Cheddle, to try and unlock the exclusive fashion collection. It's a contest, but eventually it's going to be available to everybody. The collection features a loose-fitted bright orange cheetah tracksuit along with 2 cheetah jersey-like tops wearable for men and women. And you know Bad Bunny's involved. It'll be big. And what a brilliant thing for a potato chip company to do, to kind of go into the fashion world and make their brand even more kind of omnipresent than it is. So those are our brands of the week. Now let's take a break and get a few words from our great sponsors. I want to talk to you about Indeed. Look, I ran a business, and the most important people are people. It's the people, period, up and down. Who goes in the elevators? That defines up and down every day. Those are your assets. And if you hire great people, it's your company's goal. You need to make a plan to make sure it happens fast. You get the right person fast, and with Indeed Instant Match. Yes, that's Indeed. Look, when hiring gets hard, you need Indeed. It makes hiring incredibly simple. Just attract, interview, and hire. In fact, you can do all your hiring in one place, even your interviewing. Don't hope the perfect candidate comes along. Find it. Make sure you do it the right way. Indeed Instant Match immediately delivers quality candidates whose resumes on Indeed fit your job description. You can invite them to apply right away, and according to Indeed data, candidates you invite are 3 times more likely to apply to your job than those who only see it in search alone. Plus, with Instant Match, Indeed data shows 90% of employers get quality candidates from Indeed's resume database as soon as they sponsor a job post, according to Indeed data. And according to Talent Nest, Indeed delivers 4 times more hires than all other job sites combined. So here's the way you get started right now. With a $75 sponsored job credit to upgrade your job post at Indeed.com/onbrand. Get a $75 credit at Indeed.com/onbrand. Indeed.com/onbrand. Offers valid through September 30th. Terms and conditions apply. Indeed. I want to talk to you about ExpressVPN. Look, listen to me here. Did you ever read the fine print that appears when you start browsing in incognito mode? It says your activity may still be visible to your employer, your school, or your internet service provider. How can they even call it incognito? To really stop people from seeing the sites you visit, you need to do what I do and use ExpressVPN. That will guarantee your privacy. Think about all the times you use Wi-Fi at a coffee shop, a hotel, or even your parents' house. Without ExpressVPN, every site you visit could be logged on by the admin of that network. I'm telling you, it's scary. What's more, your home internet provider, I'm talking Comcast, AT&T, whatever, can also see and record your browsing data. And in the US, they're legally allowed to sell that data to advertisers. So ExpressVPN is the app that encrypts all your network data, reroutes it through a network of secure servers so that private online activity stays just that way, private. It works on all your devices, and it's super easy to use. The app literally has one button. You tap to connect, and your browsing activity is secure from any prying eyes. So stop letting strangers invade your online privacy. Protect yourself at expressvpn.com/Donny. Use my link at expressvpn.com/Donny to get 3 extra months free. That's Express, EXPRESSVPN.com/Donny, DONNY, to learn more. Protect your privacy with ExpressVPN. Now let's get to my interview with Michael Rapaport. He's very different than a lot of the people I've had on the show. We've had a lot of politicians and traditional media personalities. I don't mean traditional in the bad sense of the word, but TV personalities. And he's a guy that's making a ton of noise and doing it on social media. He's a great actor, got great acting chops and credits, but he's a guy that is, I think, a raw voice out there that's connecting with a lot of people. You really want to hear what he has to say. Here's my chat with Michael Rapaport. Well, I am thrilled at today's guest on brand, and he is quite a brand himself. He is Mr. Michael Rapaport, star of over 60 movies, 40 TV shows, actually 2 of my favorite movies all time. I'll talk about that. The Netflix series Atypical, stand-up comic. I Am Rapaport, huge stereo podcast. He's become one of the most disruptive, interesting voices in America today. And I'm thrilled to have him here. Welcome, Mr. Rapaport.
Thanks for having me, Donny.
I got to tell you, we just met socially recently and kind of hit it off. And I've been a fan at a distance. And what I just love about you is fuck everything else, just your brutal honesty. I mean, I can't think of anybody and it's gotten you in a lot of trouble. I can't think of anybody in any media form. Well, obviously there are some other people in social media, but for the most part, that just are we hear the word raw and unfiltered a lot. It's overused words, but with you, it is really a big part of who you are.
That is true. Yeah, it is a big part of who I am. As a personality, it just sort of happened organically as far as social media. As an actor, it's, there's confines and stuff like that. And, I just, in the last 4.5 years, 5 years, people have caught on to it. I've been doing it on the podcast for about, I think it's like 7 years now. But with social media, the rants and everything that's been going on politically and socially in the country, people have gravitated towards it. And I've gotten into some, I don't say trouble, but, some
couple of scraps.
Yeah, but it's worth it, and it comes with the territory.
There aren't a lot of actors that have kind of drifted into being social media stars. You probably hate that word, but social media presences, stars. How did this kind of just all start? I don't think there was probably one day you sat down and said, okay, instead of doing just my next feature, instead of just doing the next TV show, I'm going to start to become one of the loudest voices on social media. Can you kind of go back to the birthing of this thing? Was there a moment? Was there a particular scrap you got into? What happened?
It was the rant that sort of went beyond just the people that follow me. Was the Charlottesville. After Charlottesville, the "You will not replace us," Jews will not replace us. After that whole Charlottesville situation, the next morning, it was a Saturday morning, I believe. It was either a Saturday morning or a Sunday, but it was the next morning. I had seen something on the news about it, and I was walking my dog. It was early in the morning, and I was walking my dog in Los Angeles, and a lot of the rants that I've done that have sort of caught on. I always have my dog with me when I'm walking him, and he'll be in the background, and you can see me holding the leash. And, I just was so offended by that situation. I was so offended by what they were saying. I was so offended by it was just offensive to me. And I just did it. I did a rant that, went probably the first one that I did that went viral. That wasn't a sports one. I'd done some sports ones that had caught on before, but it stays within, the sports world. But that one really just went on and on and on and on. And that was the first one. And and it was in the Trump, in the early Trump, when he was president. And then, like all the Trump stuff after, and the social stuff, and the everything that we've been dealing with collectively in the last 4.5 years, that's where it sort of, took on a different sort of level of interest, different sort of level of opinions, and been sort of divisive. It's been sort of divisive, which is, I just, like you said, I didn't plan it. I didn't think about it. And in regards to politics, I never paid attention to politics up until, when Trump was, running. And even the beginning part of that, I didn't pay attention to it. When they had the Republican debates, it kind of got my attention. But I still am not any political expert. I have very strong opinions because I've learned so much in the last 4.5 years. And I watch, read, and digest so much from both sides. Both sides has sort of become this demonized thing because Trump said, it's on both sides. But, I like to look at, all of it. I watch all of it. I watch Fox News. I watch, CNN. I listen to, Ben Shapiro. I listen to The Daily. I listen to all of it. I even fuck around with Alex Jones, because I think some of the guests he has on there are interesting. And some people, why do you watch that? And I'm like, why don't you watch that? Because if you think you're getting educated by just listening to people that you agree with and that agree with,
right,
align with what you think, I think you're doing yourself a disservice. And, I like hearing from people that I don't. If we have the same opinion, what can I learn from you?
Sure, right.
If
that's the whole thing with media today. It's all preaching to the choir. I mean, you just turn on and you just get it's fed exactly. I say the same thing to people that you do. Just if you're a progressive guy, watch Fox News because you really can't understand what's going on, the other voice out there till you get it. What I think is really important about your voice, it's interesting because when we think about political voices today, MSNBC, has 2-3 million viewers, Fox has got 2, CNN, and you have 2.5 million followers. So your voice is out there as the major news networks. And what I found, if I was going to kind of capture the essence of your voice that I responded to a lot just as a Democrat and as a guy from the streets, you were the ultimate fuck Trump voice. The way you would articulate it is not the way nobody in the media could articulate it. And even most people, you would call him Dick Stain, Donald Trump, the most vile things. And it would hit a nerve with people because it's what they were feeling. It's not what we do in polite society. And it's not, but there was such pent up rage and frustration and passionate disgust that things that ordinarily in the past you would have been really taken down for. I mean, because you would get as vulgar as you could describe any human being you would describe in the president of the United States. Now, obviously, he opened himself up to that, but I
never thought that I would do that. There was times when I was saying this, and I would say it. I would say it in the rants. Like if you look at the rants, I acknowledge it. I never thought in my wildest dreams that I would think or say out loud, let alone on video, that the president of the United States is a blah, 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 blah. I've said that because I was like, I knew how unusual it was, but like you said, he incited it. And because he was so vulgar and he was so nasty, which is a word he liked to throw around about everybody, he's nasty, she's nasty, they treated me very nasty. I was like, you just could feel how nasty he was, in his passive aggressiveness or in his just blatant disrespect and his, snide, condescending way was so vulgar that you knew that he was thinking everything I said. He wanted to be able to say to every reporter that questioned him, whether it was good, bad, or indifferent, to everybody who, didn't just bow down to him in his not being able to curse and say it. You could feel it. And even, the things that he did say, you could feel the nastiness. So, it just is crazy. I personally, I don't think he's going anywhere. I don't think he's going anywhere. I think he's going to run. People need to brace themselves for that. I don't think he's getting arrested. I don't think he's getting indicted. I don't think any of that shit's happening.
We disagree. We disagree. I think Trumpism is here, and that's the sad part. And all he did, he shined a light on maggots and a maggotism that was already there. I do think he's going to be indicted. I do think they're going to take down his organization, and I do think the Republicans on some level, even though he owns them now, he's not electable. And somehow I don't see, I could be wrong. You could be right. There's a lot, obviously the majority of the people agree with you at this point. And certainly Republicans do. They just took the straw poll at CPAC and he's got 70% of the vote. But the thing that with you that caught me in it, because I just reacted to it as a consumer, there was something cathartic about you were speaking in ways, like I said, that I could not, and I'm a pretty raw guy. I mean, in the world of media, on a scale of 1 to 100, I'm 100 as somebody who, curses and is raw and is unfiltered and whatnot. But you are at such a different level, and it hit, I know for me personally, when I was so losing my mind about Trump, and you would come out with the most vulgar things that were not, but it was soothing. It was like a balm. Guys, I'll be right back with our conversation. I just want to take a break and get to some of our wonderful sponsors. Okay, it's summertime. There are certain things about summer that are very, very special. It's summer breezes and particularly the night times. And that's why I want to talk to you about Solo Stove. It's going to make your experience so great. Look, no one forgets their time at summer camp, the friendships, activities, the most important s'mores. But cleaning up the campfire was always a messy, leaving behind all that charred and crumbling debris. But with a Solo Stove smokeless fire pit, you can experience all the joys of gathering around a fire without the messy cleanup. That's what it is, guys. It's an amazing, amazing fire pit, but it's smokeless. It doesn't have all the messy fire cleanup. I've used it. It's very, very cool. It's so easy to use. It beats anything you've been doing in the past. It's got stainless steel construction designed to regulate airflow and burn more effectively. So there's so little smoke, you wonder how there's so much fire. Easy to keep it lit, even easier to clean. And it's easy to light with a few bits of starter. Your fire is blazing in minutes. They're so confident, these guys at Solo Stove. This is a good deal. They offer a lifetime warranty and a 30-day free return policy. You try it for 30 days, you don't like it. I mean, you're not going to return it, but you can. So here's the deal. No one needs a reason to gather around the fire. Solo Stove just took away the reason not to. Now you can get $10 off when you use promo code Donny at checkout. Just go to solostove.com and remember, you get $10 off when you use promo code Donny. Try it. You can't lose. 30-day money-back guarantee. Solo Stove, this is the new way to sit around a campfire. Okay, I care about the way I look. I like clothes, and Indochino is a place that I go resource. It basically helps you put your look together. It's really, really simple. If you've shopped or visited a showroom online, nothing personalizes your deal like this. Basically, it offers completely custom fitted suits, shirts, casual wear, and more at surprisingly affordable prices. Every piece is made to your exact measurement, and you can customize every detail. Choose everything about your suit, from the fabric, label, monogram, and statement linings. You can create a suit that fits you and your style perfectly. The best part, Indochino's suits start at just $3.99 with all customizations included. I've checked out a lot of sites that do this. Indochino is the one. I've gotten some stuff from there. It really, really works. Indochino is now open at select Nordstrom stores, giving you even more ways to get great fitting, personalized clothing. Find your nearest location at Indochino.com. That's INDOCHINO.com. Right now, you get $50 off any purchase of $3.99 more by using code Donny at checkout. That's $50 off purchase of $3.99 more at INDOCHINO.com, promo code Donny. Indochino. If you care about the way you look and you want the best fashion value for your buck and you want to completely customize, this is the place, Indochino.
You know, when I do the rants, they're not contrived. The reason why they come off so angry or frustrated is because, like, you know, like the Charlottesville one, I was saying, like, I was walking my dog. It was early in the morning. And I was just like, who the fuck are you talking? Jews will not replace this? Who the fuck? Like, in my head, I'm just sharing, who the fuck do you think you're? Fuck you, you fuck. Like, this is my head, you motherfuckers. Like, I'm walking my dog. It's a beautiful sound. You know, and I'm thinking, you know, who the fuck thinks what are you talking about? Like 2020, like 20, whatever year that was. It was like 2018,
2017.
You motherfuckers, like, in my head. And like, I'm looking at the picture and I'm like, look, I remember I'm looking at the picture. I'm like, you got your button-up shirts and your khaki pants. Like, who are these who on a Friday night, like, this is what you do when you're like in your 20s, like, who on a Friday night, like, that's your life, you fucking losers. And then like, I just stop and I go, and I posted, and that one just went, it went crazy.
Michael, the interesting lesson for people out there, particularly young people, about you is that you can take the thing that was your kind of Achilles heel as a kid that always got you in trouble, was the thing that was going to keep you from being successful, and you actually turned it into your essence that's made you successul. There could not have been a kid that was more of a disruptor than you. You grew up, you started out, or you were at one point, you were at PS 158, where my oldest daughter went to school. You got kicked out of, is this possible, 13 schools?
13 schools. Well, I got kicked out of PS 158 twice.
And got kicked out in third grade for calling a teacher, kept calling a teacher a jive turkey, and they brought you into the principal's office and you took a swing at the principal in third grade?
Yeah, but even that was a culmination of just driving them crazy. I mean, I was on the watch list as soon as I got into PS 158 in kindergarten. I was, you know, I was just, you know, unruly and, you know, and just, you know, at the time they didn't know what it was, you know, but now it would be ADHD or ADD or who the fuck knows? You know, they tried to put me on these medicines and stuff. And this is in the 70s, and medicines weren't.
They weren't medicating anybody. We were over medicating.
Yeah, they weren't medicating anybody. And my father and my mother, you know, always, you know, backed me up with all that stuff. And yeah, I mean, it just was very disruptive. And the reason why I use the term disruptive behavior, it's like part of my brand, since we're on brand. You
I'm
know,
gonna ask you about your brand.
is because a few years ago I was going through. My father kept a few report cards, and my father kept a few of these progress reports. And when they sent me to the Board of Education, they did a whole psychological exam, and the word disruptive behavior kept coming up. And I remember, feeling embarrassed about it. Like as an adult, I was like, started like, like shit, like I felt bad about it. And then I was like, that's just who I am. Like, that's who I am. Like, I'm bringing this back. Like, like this thing that I felt bad about and that was sort of tattooed on me throughout all my school years, disruptive behavior, disruptive, I was like, that's just, like that is who I am. Like that is in me. And with the podcast first and then with the social media coming, a couple of years after that, that's why I started, using it as a thing, disruptive behavior. And I hear that word thrown around a lot now.
Oh,
but
now it's so overused. But the great thing about you is that it was your essence and it was your quote unquote downfall as a kid, but you at an adult age owned it and turned it into your strength and into your Samson hair. I mean, it really is a great lesson for you because the school system, school is not set up for many extraordinary people. It's set up, traditional school, to learn linearly, if you have a good memory and whatnot. I remember as a kid, every teacher, every report card I got, he's not working up to his potential because he couldn't pay attention. He wasn't listening. I'd go to school, my first paragraph would be all neat notes, and then you could see my doodles, my brain go, because I had a creative mind. And I couldn't think, and so it is just so, I encourage parents out there, if you're having challenges with your kids, right, look at the things that are causing the problems and maybe in their essence, their strengths and not weaknesses, and nurture them and help them, because you are really the poster boy for that. I mean, it's almost a classic
easier
case.
Said than done because, yeah. I mean, when you have kids and I sometimes, I'm just like, my parents, man, shit. I mean, I must have drove them nuts. And they were very patient with me. They were very, very patient with me. But I know I drive my wife crazy. Right. Obviously, I'm in control of myself now. I'm a grown-up, but I still have tendencies and I still have issues. I mean, I still do. Like the thing that gets mixed up with social media and real life is people sometimes expect, like I get greeted on the street by people saying, "Yo, what the fuck is that? What the fuck?" They that's their way. They think that I'm at that level all the time, and I get that. And it's funny, but there's also like I'm a civilized, trained professional. Like when I'm ranting on social media, like I'm very aware of what I'm doing. Even if I'm frustrated, pissed off, I'm very aware of a camera. I'm an actor. Like I'm talking to you. There's a green light on. Like if the green light goes off, I shift into neutral. Like this is a performance here. I'm a paid professional.
Yes.
Being on a podcast is a performance. Being on social media, to me, it's performance. It's performance art. It's not the same thing as acting, but it's a similar gear. But it's all fun and it is who I am, and I try to make the best of it and not let it get the best of me. When I was younger, when I was a kid, it got the best of me for sure. Like I was. I was not in control of myself.
You use the word performance art. Sad things, and I've talked about this on the show, and I think you and I talked about this at lunch, that some of these assholes, the Tucker Carlsons of the world, and that they're doing performance art. I don't believe 100%. That they know that the camera's pointing at them and they're talking to 3 million people. And I really believe some of the things they don't even believe. It makes it even more pathetic, frankly. And it's like Trump was a transactional racist. These guys are purely transactional, but I think that's important for people to understand. If anybody's communicating on social media, if anybody's communicating from a newsroom, if anybody is sitting on the Jimmy Fallon show, no matter what is coming out of their mouth, they're in a performance mode. And I think it's speaking of performance, you've had an incredible acting career. We're going to also talk about the new thing you're doing, Amy Schumer. But you were in 2 of the best casted movies in the history of movies, Copland and True Romance. When I think about who was in True Romance, I mean, just Christian Slater, Patricia Arquette, Christopher Walken, Dennis Hopper, Brad Pitt, Jim Gandolfini, Bronson Pinchot. Chris Penn, Tom Sizemore, I mean, insane. And then when you go to Copland, you've got De Niro, you've got Stallone, you've got Harvey Keitel. I know growing up, De Niro was kind of one of your guys that you really looked up to. You've always, I know, seen yourself as just kind of a street kid. I mean, when you were in those, working with all those guys, were you like, I belong here, waiting for someone to come in and tap you and go, you're full of shit, get out of here? What's it like when you're in the AAA plus league like that?
I didn't think that I didn't belong there. I couldn't believe that I was there. I knew that I belonged there, and I was right for the part, and I was ready to work with, those guys, that you mentioned in both those films, but to this day, I'm still, I mean, I don't know if other actors have this, but to this day, I'm still a fan, and I'm still excited to see, talk to, let alone work with, people that excite me, and that, especially the guys that I grew up watching before I even considered being an actor, like the majority of the people you mentioned, De Niro, Stallone. I mean, Sylvester Stallone was, I didn't even want to be an actor. I wanted to be Rocky. Like, that movie pivoted my entire life. Like, that movie, and then Saturday Night Fever, and I got to work with John Travolta. Like, I love actors. I love talking to them. I love watching them work, and, they inspire me so much. And, and I understand it in a really good way. It's different. I grew up wanting to be a basketball player, but it's a similar feeling, like when I've gotten to meet Dr. J, and gotten to meet Magic Johnson, and all these, it's a similar feeling, but I'm not competing against them.
Yeah.
Because I'm fascinated, on my podcast, sometimes I'll have athletes on and I'll go, well, who is your favorite player? And they'll say Kobe Bryant. I go, well, when you first got on the court to compete against Kobe Bryant, like, are you like, oh shit, there's Kobe Bryant? Or when you got on the court and you're now guarding Michael Jordan or Allen Iverson or whoever it is, like, I'm fascinated by that dynamic. It's different in basketball because
you're competing. It's a zero-sum game. Yeah, it's different.
Yeah, and in acting, we're not trying to compete. We're like together. It's different, but it's similar in terms of, like, when I'm working with Sylvester Stallone, there's not a facial movement or a tone of his voice that I have not heard, because I've watched every single one of his movies over and over and over. Like Robert De Niro, there's not a gesture he can do that I have not seen, studied, stolen, rewound, screenshotted. I just adore him, but when I'm working with him, like, in between action and cut, I'm not thinking about that. Those kinds of thoughts come like after, takes, or in between takes, or, when I'm in my trailer. But like when I'm working with him, like, you're just there.
You're just there in the moment. You're dancing. You're dancing. You're dancing. But it's
fun.
I want to give you some props. You brought up you want to be a basketball player, that you got the MVP in one of the celebrity NBA tournaments because of your scrappy defensive effort shutting down Terrell Owens. Take us back to that. I mean, I didn't know that. I was really
fucking
impressed.
Right, Donnie. You got that right.
I was really fucking impressed.
That was, like that, those, like I grew up wanting to be a basketball player. So you're playing in the, this celebrity basketball games, which isn't even good. It's not even good street, it's not even a good, like,
pickup game,
3-on-3 level, but it's exciting. And, you're there with Chris Mullin and Scottie Pippen and, this one and that actor and this, celebrity and that stuff. And those are a lot of fun. They were, so much fun. Like, again, like, I don't take those things for granted. Like, there's a kid in me that is very aware of what's happening when those things are happening. Still at 51 years old, I'm very like, oh shit. I don't know if that'll ever go away, because sometimes I'm like, yeah, you still care about this. I still do care about it. I still do get, whether it's sports but particularly acting, mesmerized by certain actors and just watch it. I watch it differently now because I do it, but there's still a part of me that, I could go into it's just escape, like I could watch Denzel Washington.
You said Denzel had game. You said he had game also on the basketball court.
Yeah. He could play. Denzel could play. I don't think he plays that much anymore, but he, you saw him and he got game. He could definitely play, but he's played ball. You could tell, like, I remember seeing him play ball a long time ago, like in 1989, 90, like at the YMCA, before he was like huge. He was just sort of coming up. He was on that show,
St. Elsewhere. St.
Elsewhere. So like it was like, oh shit, the guy from St. Elsewhere, but he could play.
Well-known scrap with Kevin Durant. You talked earlier about how you sometimes are not in, like you're doing shit, you're not in control, and it's been well documented. You guys were jawing at each other for years, and then you got really pissed and you sent out some DMs, and then after you said you wouldn't. Just kind of give me the post-mortem now on because you've gotten into brawl. Look, you brawled with the Barstool Sports guys, you brawled with the Ariana Grande. It's part of your thing. I mean, it's gonna come with the territory, and it's actually on brand and good for your brand. And I'm not saying you do it in a calculated way. As a matter of fact, in the Durant situation, you realized afterwards. So what you going at it with Durant? You guys have done this for years, which is kind of cool. That to be like jawing with Kevin Durant on your personal DMs. I mean, nothing's cooler than that. I think what set you off was he gave one of those one-word interviews after and you just kind of start to diss him and just go through the Durant debacle, if you will, because it's kind of
So with Durant, so I met him one time, and that was that. So we're not friends. I met him one time. A fan of his, I didn't like, his leaving Golden State, but I thought he was great at Golden State.
What did you think about him? What did you think about him going to Golden State? I thought you would have said you.
I hated it.
Okay, yeah, that wouldn't be smart.
I hated him going to Golden State. But I thought he was incredible at Golden State because I always liked the Golden State Warriors. Going back to the Chris Mullin.
Me too.
Mitch Richmond.
Tim Hardaway. Same thing. Same thing.
And Chris Mullin was one of my favorite players. So I always liked that team. I like the We Believe team. So and of course, this Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Draymond team is great. Anyway, so the whole thing started at the opening night of this season. He did an interview with Chuck, Charles, Kenny Smith after a game, his first game back. And you could tell he had they must have said something about him in the past. you could just read between the lines.
Yeah, he didn't want to be there.
And he was giving him one-word answers, and it was like he didn't want to be there, and he was like condescending. And I basically, I don't remember what I said. I tweeted something. I didn't tweet it at him, and I didn't DM him. I tweeted something. Yo, if you don't want to do the interview, don't do the interview. Something like that. Wasn't anything vulgar or violent. He saw the tweet and DM'd me. Fuck you this, fuck you that.
Were you like, let's pause at that moment. When all of a sudden you look at your DMs and Kevin Durant is actually reacting. Like what at that moment are you like, this is really cool, or oh my, I'm kind of bummed that this is going on?
I thought he was like, I thought I was misinterpreting his shit talking. I thought he was just talking shit. And I think I said, yo, you're funny or something like that. And he said something, I'm paraphrasing because I don't have them in front of me, but he was like, I'm not trying to be, he didn't say I'm not trying to be funny. He basically said, oh no, fuck you. I'm not trying to be funny. When I see you, I'm going to spit in your face. And I was like, fuck are you talking about? You're not fucking spitting in my fucking face, you fucking dummy.
Right.
And then it happened again a few weeks later, like he missed a shot or something. And this time I did add him. I just said, I can't remember, it wasn't anything vulgar, but I added him like on a story or something like that. And he said, da 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 da, I'm going to spit in your face. Come meet me here, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, I don't think you understand who you're talking to. Like, I'm not fucking like I don't give, like, I'm not afraid of you. Like there's nothing about you that scares me. I don't, like, fuck you. You don't know who you're talking to. And that was exchange went on about 3 or 4 weeks later. And then on a random Tuesday, I didn't say anything to him. He texted me in the morning and I was having a bad day. I was busy at work. I can't wait to spit in your face. Blah, 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 blah. And he just like, fuck, when I see you, I'm going to spit in your face. I can't wait to spit in your face. You're this, you're that, you're this, you're that. And I just was like, fuck this guy. And I was like, this guy's so full of shit. He's so fucking fake. In my head, I was like, here, I'm going to show the world who you are, because you're talking to me like you're like, he's the type of person, if I had saw him, he'd be like, I'm just fucking with you. Like, and I was just like, he caught me on the wrong day. And the story and the incident took on a life of its own. You know, my wife said, well, didn't you think it would turn into this? It's Kevin Durant. I said, no. I told her, I said, I did not think so. I said, at the time, he was just an asshole in my DMs. And I put people in my, who threaten me, who say stuff.
You were on autopilot. So he was just another guy, another asshole going at you.
At that
You were
moment,
going to go back.
he was just he wasn't Kevin Durant. He was just a guy in my DMs threatening me. And I was like, fuck this guy, and put it up there. And it took on a life of its own. I don't know why it took on such a life of its own.
I'll tell you exactly why. Because you have one of the most well-known provocateurs in social media, a big voice, one of the arguably 3 best basketball players on the planet, and he was the one who made his story by saying, "I'm going to spit in your face." I mean, you ended up. I actually didn't think you were that in the wrong. You ended up apologizing. I shouldn't have, but you can't do it. By the way, if Brad Pitt or anybody else you don't get that. By the way. When somebody's in the stands, I'm not talking about when somebody says a racial slur or something like that. All you said was you gave a shitty interview. An NBA player can't. I'm going to spit in your face. I mean, it's just you're in a different place. You don't get to do that.
And who are you talking to? Like you're not going to like. And it's like you're not tough. Like who? Like I'd rather he said I'm going to punch you in the face, but you're going to spit on my face. And he said it 3 different times, and then the third time it was like on a random Tuesday.
Speaking of sports, Howard Cosell, speaking of sports, you're a big Conor McGregor fan, and I couldn't agree with you more. He is, to me, it's one thing when you have to put up with, I'm saying that facetiously, if anybody follows Michael, they know it's not the case, it's the opposite. The thing about that guy that you've hit it so on the nerve is, it's bad enough when we have to put up with winning assholes, You're a fucking you've lost 3 of your last 4 fights, okay? And you're jawing, and you're telling people you're going to kill them, and you're telling people you're going to kill their wife. And it's like, it's bad enough when the guy who's got the ring, or the guy that's got the cup, or the guy that's got the trophy is not humble and is a douchebag and is an asshole. Now we got to listen to guys who are losers, who are basically, they're washed up.
Right.
And you still jawing? It's shut the fuck up.
I agree. I mean, it's one, people will say to me when I talk about Trump, they'll go, well, you do the same thing. I go, I'm not the president of the United States, number one. And if I was, I would refrain from speaking the way he spoke. And then the thing about McGregor, he did this with Khabib. He did this with Floyd Mayweather, where he steps over the line. With Khabib, it's talking about race, talking about his father.
Yeah.
I think he talked about his wife. With Floyd Mayweather, there was he's calling him a monkey. I mean, and I'm like, I know you're from Ireland, but like somebody'd be like, yo, you don't do that here. You don't call a black person you don't call him a monkey. And then, with Poirier, and it wasn't just after the fight. He was talking about Dustin Poirier's wife, the whole build up to the fight. And then after the fight, while you're sitting there with your ankle broken, bleeding out of your ear, you're talking about the guy's wife. And it's funny because there's a similarity between his fans and Trump fans. Like they just like, yeah, he's a legend. And I'm like,
by the way, when in UFC, you want to know the demo of UFC? When Trump walked into the ring, he got major cheers. I mean, it really shows you where, I'm not saying everybody, but it was an interesting demonstration of the UFC demo. I mean, by the way, he walks into a Knick game, he's getting booed out of there, so it depends kind of what the audience is and who's there.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I saw that. But McGregor saying that stuff about the guy's wife after the fight, or even before the fight, it's inexcusable. And he's a scumbag, and he's done it over and over and over and over. And now I think it's because he has an inferiority complex, because I think he knows his fighting career is over. He's got a lot of money. Cool, great. But obviously I know it bothers him that he keeps losing these fights.
Let's move. I want to move into your current project. You're shooting in the middle of shooting right now. Series for Hulu with Amy Schumer. You finished up Atypical on Netflix, and in it you play Amy Schumer's dad in flashbacks as a young teenager. Talk to me about the project.
Yeah, it's called Life and Beth. It's on Hulu. It's coming out. I don't know when it's coming out, but we're still shooting now. Amy wrote it. She's directing some of them. It's going to be a really good show. I think it's going to be a very dark, emotional comedy. And I play, like there's a lot of stuff in flashbacks. I play the father to her as a teenage girl, and we're shooting here in New York, and it's her, it's Michael Cera, it's myself, and a bunch of other really good people, and I'm looking forward to it. And that and Atypical season 4 just premiered on Netflix, and that's been doing really well, and I'm very proud of that, and I'm fortunate to be doing my thing, Donnie.
You are. I'm going to let you go in a few minutes. Just a couple more questions. And do you feel a responsibility that you've got 2.5 million people listening to you? Like I said, it's no different than sitting on MSNBC and there's 2 million people watching you, and you do know that you have a very provocative voice. Is at this point, are you kind of like, hey, I got a little bit of a mission here. I want to accomplish this. Or is it just, I'm entertaining. I'm kind of free forming, whatever comes out of my mouth, I don't give a shit. Or is there something a little bit, I don't say loftier going on, but there is a response. Like, it's like you have a following. You in the literally and figuratively, you have a following. It's something very different about social media, and it's a responsibility. And because you kind of shape things, you move things, and and so I'm kind of just trying. I know you're a good guy, and I know that so where does that kind of responsible? I don't mean responsible to not say anything inappropriate, but
I know what you mean.
But it's you move in mountains,
I mean, I think sometimes I have a responsibility to speak out. I think I have I think if I have any responsibility in regards to anything on my social media, it's in regards to speak out when people can't speak out or say the things that at this point I feel like people won't say. I'm Jewish, proudly Jewish. I'm not overtly Jewish, but I'm 150% Jewish. In the last 2 months when everything was flaring up with Israel and Palestine, and I saw that none of my actor friends that I know or actors that I admire who will Jew it up for a joke, who will nebbish it up for a joke, who will neuroticize themselves for a joke, which I'll do also.
Sure.
That's just part of our culture.
They were running for cover, right?
And I have no problem with that. But all people that have made their careers off of doing
being Jewish it wasn't politically correct to not necessarily to stand up really strong for Israel at that moment. It got a little funky.
No, and even in a nuanced way.
Yeah, you
could do it in a nuanced way. But it's easy to take on the cause of this person and that cause and these people and this. But when it's yourself, you're putting an X on yourself. Oh, okay. Now you're here. You're not just like, I support this cause. I support that cause. I support these people. Now you're saying, no. You're like putting a stop sign saying, this is who I am and I don't accept it. And people got brainwashed by social media. I'm not the most informed or half most informed person about Israel and Palestine, but I did educate myself, and I was very clear before I spoke and clear before I posted, because I know it's very sensitive. And I did feel a responsibility to myself first to say something, and I felt a responsibility to as a face of an actor who although I'm not necessarily associated as being a Jewish actor because I don't play those kinds of parts, I know that I'm a Jewish actor, and I felt a responsibility to say something. And even when you say something in the most nuanced, delicate, thoughtful way, people will only hear what they want to hear. That's what I realized in regards to speaking up or speaking on the Israel-Palestine situation. Even when you say it slowly, clearly, you repeat yourself, people will only hear what they want to hear. And like I said, I know how dumb I am. And I realized on social media, a lot of people don't know how dumb they are. Like, I know how misinformed I am, but I also know how much effort I try to educate and inform myself. So, I'm getting to the point where I do sometimes feel like I want to show things because it's interesting because the social media platforms, Twitter is one world and Instagram is another world.
Yes.
And
great point. You can't put them in this one box. You could not be more. Yes. They operate differently. They move. Yes. Yeah. 100% right.
So sometimes I'll see something on Twitter that I know is not even getting any circulation on Instagram, and I'll put it on Instagram. And that I do it with a responsibility. That I do, I want people to see this. I want people to hear about this. People are talking about what's going on in Cuba right now, but not many people are talking about what's going on in South Africa right now. The president of Haiti gets assassinated, and it's like a fucking blip. This is the president of Haiti gets murdered
in his own, kidnapped and murdered in his own home. Right.
Insane, and I'm like, people are this, so, and some of it has to do with who follows me and who I follow. So I'm becoming more aware of it and trying to take more responsibility to it and sort of focus the ranting, the point of view, and that's try to focus it a little bit more, because I do believe in what I have to say, and like I said, like we talked about when we met, and I said on the on the podcast here, I do pay attention, and I do read, and I do listen, and I do watch diverse stuff, and I think even with all that, people you agree with, don't agree with, and everything in between, you still don't get facts, which is pretty pathetic.
Yeah. Is it final thought, Michael? Is it? I'm going to give you your brand audit. What I think the essence of your brand is. I've felt it, and even more talking to you today. You're the underdog, trash talking to the big dogs.
I like that. I like that. That's my brand audit.
Yeah, that's your essence right there. That. That's it. You used the word underdog once in the interview today, and it just jumped at me when I think about you going to Trump. You think about Kevin Durant, and it's like you. Because you're this guy from the streets and you're this scrappy Jewish guy, and you're not the typical Hollywood look actor. You were probably an underdog as an actor, and now you're the guy at home barking back and on behalf of the underdog, speaking trash talking the big dogs.
I like that.
All right,
and our mutual friend, Mr. Steve. He told me about your art collection. I want to come over to your house and see that. I was tripping because I love art.
Oh, you got to come over. No, I'm pretty lucky. I got some great stuff.
I will trip out if I see it.
Let's do it. By the way, he's referencing Steve Madden, who I didn't even mention that they're working on and they're developing with another good friend of mine, Merrill Poster, on Michael's going to kind of play Steve, or a kind of facsimile of Steve in a Netflix type, Ray Donovan type, series. So that's in development now. So look for that in your streaming services coming in the next couple of years.
I want to see your collection, because, I've only seen that stuff. I've seen it in galleries.
Right.
I've seen it in museums. Then one time I got to come over.
All right. We'll settle lunch the next few weeks. We'll come over. Right.
I would love that.
Michael, you are the best, man. You're a champion. I know how busy you are. I really appreciate you taking the time, brother.
I ain't that busy, Donnie. I appreciate you having me, man. And, I'm looking forward to, hanging out some more.
You got it. I'll see you soon, man.
All right.
Hey, by the way, guys, we want to hear from you. If there's any brands you want me to talk about, love to hear suggestions, any thoughts you have on brands up or brands down. We love hearing your comments. So please send your comments in, and you'll hear them right back on the show. Hope you enjoyed Michael Rapaport. I did. Don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe on brand. We love having you here. Once again, either rate, review, or subscribe, or do all of the above. We'll see you next time. And remember to stay on brand. Everybody, thanks for watching. If you like it, hit that subscribe button. And we love having you here watching On Brand. And just don't miss any future episodes. So don't forget to hit that subscribe button. We'll see you next time.